of what Lieutenant Ben Cohen actually had to say, that it was after Roaring Lion, last year, the 12-day war, that it was not in Israel that they said death to Iran. It was not in Israel that there was a clock tower that set a clock countdown, and it was not the Israeli Prime Minister who set down a countdown clock back saying that by 2027 we've got to set up 8,000 ballistic missiles and we need to wipe out Israel in the next 2 years.
Iran, yes.
It happened in Iran. So Israel's point has always been, we've never said death to Iran. It's the Iranians who are under Khamenei who have said death to Israel, death to America, let's kill all Jews. Tom Cooper.
I beg to differ a little bit in this regards, because rhetoric as fiery and as venomous as that of the Iranian regime, without defending it, is one thing, and the ability to actually do something is an entirely different situation. That's why I always say Iranians can cry as much as they like that they are going to wipe out Israel, but they can't do that. On the contrary, as we can see, Israel can especially with US support, bomb Iran up and down almost as it likes.
Yeah.
Not entirely as it likes, but it is fair enough.
But that's also true that from 2024, 2025 till 2027, even now, Iran has significantly amped up its ballistic missiles cache. If you see right now in the last 2 days, Zaka is also with us, and viewers, let's get this. The estimate is that they have at least 600 missiles that have been fired.
Already, yeah.
Already. So, and they are saying we're just getting started. So that means unless they are sitting on a stockpile of medium to short range and of course long range missiles of about 3,500 plus missiles, they're not going to be able to make this boast.
So look, Anand, I've been saying this even yesterday, I'm saying this today. Iran has a finite number of missiles, right? And whatever they can expend in this particular war, because the Iranian nation is going to continue even beyond these few days of the war, will have to be, let's say they have X number of missiles, it'll have to be X number, whatever the factor is.
Right.
So the most conservative estimates say they have 2,000 or 3,000 missiles.
Right.
The most expansive estimates say they have upwards of 10,000. So my point is, it's a finite number. At some point, all this firing of missiles will have to stop. Even with the drones, as cheap as they are, I mean, we were talking about it, $2,000, $3,000, whatever it is, $10,000. The point is that there's a finite number of ammunition that the Iranians have. And that's going to run out at some point. Look, what is at play? This is the big picture as I see it. Iran needs to seek revenge. Their supreme leader, their spiritual guide, their political and, the man who really controlled that state over the last 40 years is dead, and dead brutally. I mean, I don't want to get into adjectives and stuff, but he got killed like a dog. I'm sorry to say this, but that's really what happened. Now, the point is, Iran needs to do something to be seen as avenging that, right? That's their way out. So how do I see this war ending? It has to be either of two possibilities. One is Iran needs a way out, which is that they have to take a high-value American target out. Look at what happened last June when the 12-day war concluded. How did it end?
Yeah.
It ended with Iran hitting the Al Udeid air base in Qatar, which is an American air base. Nobody died because people were all evacuated, but at least they hit an American air base and they could tell back to their people.
So that was their off-ramp.
That was their off-ramp.
Yeah.
What is the off-ramp now? Right now, there is no off-ramp.
No,
which is why they are continuing
the
to
off-ramp right now, Rahul, what they have said, Largiani has actually set it, and they have said that it's Bibi Netanyahu.
They're not going to hit Bibi Netanyahu. I said this yesterday. I've been
they've
inside Bibi Netanyahu's office.
They may
no
not
one's
hit.
going to hit
They are saying exactly what the Israelis said about Khamenei, saying we know his movements, we know where he is going, we know what he is doing. They are now out for Netanyahu's head. That's where they will settle, because clearly they don't want to touch Trump. But here it is Netanyahu's head. And someone like Trump says, it was either me or Khamenei, and Khamenei had to go. That was also something which Trump said. So how do you see this? We'll get into the nuclear aspect and also Trump shifting goalposts through the course of this conversation. But first, your thing about what is Iran's off-ramp here, which is going to perhaps de-escalate this.
Look, first of all, I don't believe that the Iranians are looking to actually take revenge. I think the regime there is looking to survive. with the Trump administration and others now coming out and saying that, look, at the end of the day, we're not looking for regime change. I don't see where the end is, where this war is going. What are the objectives now? If it wasn't regime change, then what was this about? Okay, you've eliminated a few people, but more people will step in.
Yeah.
And if they step in and the US and the Israelis say, oh, we've neutered their weapon systems and this, that, the other, fine. The war might end. There might be an off-ramp offered, or maybe they will come to the table, but the regime won't go. And after another 4 years or 2 years or 3 years, you'll have another build-up.
Yeah.
And you'll have another replay.
Yeah.
So this war is ending in inanities to me. Or going there. Now, the Prime Minister is talking to the Sultan of Oman, the Crown Prince of Kuwait, over the Gulf War. I think the best bet now for these Gulf nations also sort of come together and form a bridge. They're the ones who should sort of talk to Iran, and they should talk to the United States, pull back and say, guys, I think the time has come when you redefine what you're up to here. Come to the table, let's start the negotiations. Right. They can't become part of the problem because they're clearly bleeding, and we've got a situation where the MEA has mentioned that we're worried now about the so-called oil shock hitting us.
Right. Agree? Disagree? Tom Cooper?
I agree, disagree. For example, I agree with Zaka when he says it depends on missile stock. I said right away this is going to be a game of numbers. The point is, however, that also the Israeli and US missile stocks cannot be fantastic because just yesterday they plus the US customers for Patriot missiles in the Gulf has wiped out the entire year worth of production of Patriot missiles. Just yesterday. This is something like 600 missiles. They are gone. They are spent. And between others, in order to shut down 3 US aircraft. So I don't see where should this go. It is the same story with all wars Israel has initiated already since 1956. There's always somebody on the other side who is a lethal or mortal threat for the country. Then they invade. There is a war. There are sometimes hundreds, sometimes thousands.
This war is, where is it going?
And every time,
I don't see any clear objectives here.
Let's understand. First, they said they want a regime change. Now they killed the Khomeini, but there doesn't seem to be a regime change at this moment happening because they've immediately got somebody in place in Ali Reza, and he seems to be following the Khomeini's line.
See, this is not
very
how
clearly.
Iraq played out. When Saddam was sort of hounded out of office, and Chemical Ali and all his cabinet was sort of found and shot dead, the regime imploded because it was actually a minority Ba'athist party which controlled a majority.
Sunni,
here,
yes.
Exactly.
Sunni,
Here,
largely
the
Shia,
situation is that these people are from the larger population. There is a homogeneity. So people will just step in to say we have to defend the larger interests of Iran, and if we become Shahid, no problems.
You know, I beg to differ on this. People tend to sort of paint Iran as this homogeneous society. It is not. Only 60% of Iran is Persian. The remaining 40% is Kurds, Azeris. There are all kinds of other Baloch. There are all kinds of other minorities. Now, here's the thing. When they hounded out Saddam Hussein in 2003, it was unfinished business from 1991. The father Bush could not finish it. The son Bush came and tried to finish it. When they hounded out Saddam Hussein in 2003, it took them 2 months between the launch of the war, I think it was called Operation Desert Storm, and then 2 months later they found Saddam Hussein, those famous words, we got him.
We got him,
right?
yeah.
Here, the principal objective of the Trump administration, certainly for Mr. Trump individually, was to smoke out Khamenei. And he's got that on day one. Tomorrow, like this morning, daybreak in the US, if Trump wakes up and says, that's it, America is done, I'm done, I'm ending this war, Israel cannot continue this war on its own. The rest of the region cannot continue this war on its own. It depends entirely on the United States.
No, wait,
but having said that,
the rest of the region?
Hang on.
What
is there to disagree about? Hang on.
So the point is Trump has got whatever he wanted.
All I'm saying is that
he can stop the war tomorrow.
That this war is going nowhere. If Trump pulls out, you know what people are going to say? That you started a conflict in the region all of us have been burnt by this, and you walk away from the
Yeah.
table without being able to kick out the regime.
because he's
Which
got what he
No,
wanted.
no, hang on, one
Yeah,
second,
you're
one
right in
second.
this regard.
You might have the bragging rights, but at the end of the day, that's
But
the end of it.
yeah, that's the problem.
The
Does
regime
Trump
is still
look
there.
like he's
The
looking for
regime
anything
is
other
still
than
there.
bragging rights?
The regime is still there. The women are still going to be sort of, unfortunately, terrorized. Young civilians who have risen up or at least expressed their support for the outside world are still going to be tormented and jailed. They will be back, and it'll be an only matter of
not
two or
just that.
three
No,
years.
no, no.
Rahul, one thing. I hate to break it to you. Trump doesn't care.
It doesn't matter
He doesn't
about
care.
Trump. It
Trump
doesn't
doesn't
matter
He
about
doesn't
Trump.
care.
It doesn't
All
matter
he
about
wanted was
Trump.
the head of the snake.
It
He's got
doesn't,
the head
it
of the
doesn't
snake.
matter. What did I
this
start
re-
by saying? No, what did I start by saying? That this regime doesn't want revenge. It wants to survive because it just knows that, look, there are interests, there are business interests. This is not some,
I just see business interest. Yes.
these are business interests. No one
First and
walks away
foremost.
from the business interest. You have Pakistan. The Pakistan army is in charge of Pakistan. Why? Because they own businesses,
Pakistani
they own
economy.
golf courses, they own resorts, they own hotels, they own everything. And so does the Iranian regime.
Right, totally taken, point taken. Now my question is, Iran has gone ahead and bombed Qatar, it's gone ahead and bombed in Saudi Arabia, it's gone bombed Bahrain, although they say US air bases, these nations are saying, you have come and attacked our sovereign soil, we didn't expect you to do it. Are these nations going to keep quiet, or are they going to push for certain kind of revenge now?
They would like to hit back on Iran, but the problem is that is then going to position their regimes as fighting on the side in an alliance with Israel. And they can say as much as they like, oh, Abrahamic Accords and we are great friends now and whatever else. But they know that the population does not like this idea.
All right. Okay, let's take this forward because there are 2-3 other aspects which I wanted to cover. One is Steve Witkoff and Iran's position. Does Iran have nuclear abilities, weaponizing abilities? Because Steve Witkoff claims 60% uranium enriched. That's what the Iranians themselves claim. 460 kilograms of it, and we can make 10 nuclear bombs with it. At what level of enrichment of uranium can it be weaponized? And are the Iranians close to a nuclear bomb? Then were the Saudi concerns right then?
You can make a dirty bomb already with 10% of enriched uranium. This is not the question. The question is just how effective is it then? Is it really, destroying an entire city or not? That is the difference.
And can you deploy and
highly
deliver it?
enriched, yes. And that is the next question. Do you have a platform which can reliably deploy it? Because this is what killed de facto the Pakistani operation last year, that they had no platform which could reliably deploy a nuclear weapon against India. So this is why they were defeated, and they then called for, please, let's out the ceasefire. Okay, that is one start.
Which is one of the reasons why people said you should have gone in and finished the game.
Finish the game, yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
That's another point. But
That's a different point. But let's go back to Iranian capability to actually make a nuke. They can make a nuke. They can make a nuke for 20 years or something. And that was the point. I don't know why is nobody taking this seriously. This nuclear fatwa by Khamenei from 2006. This is a religious law. Everybody is happy to declare Iran for theocracy, but nobody cares about the religious law in this theocracy. So, really, if you have a religious law
Because
which
they're
says
businessmen.
you are not permitted to assemble the nuclear weapon, this is how I interpret the text of that fatwa, then it means that dear IRGC, shut up, sit down, you can have all the pieces of the bomb, that is very nice, but you are not permitted to build them together.
if that is the case, why were the Saudis so hell-bent? Because now it is coming out, viewers, and to all of the, the gents here, that it was not Israel that pushed US. It's been the Crown Prince and Saudi Arabia for the last month and a half that's been pushing the US to move in and attack Iran.
I don't buy
and
that.
remove
buy
the
that.
regime.
I don't
They
buy
say
that.
that it's the
That
Saudis
is-
because they were very, very... See, let's try and piece together certain
Which
circumstances.
newspaper put
Certain
this out?
circumstantial evidence. Let's just say the Saudis move with Pakistan to sign a nuclear cooperation deal. The
Defense
Saudis,
cooperation.
Defense cooperation and also nuclear
No,
technology.
there's no
There
nuclear.
is that was the second one. The first meeting was defense. The second meeting was
where is
about
Pakistan?
exchange of nuclear. No, it's not about where Pakistan is. That's when we started saying Pakistan is trying to get into a rent-a-new program because when that meeting happened with the Saudis. Now, why were the Saudis moving in this direction, especially nearly a year after the 12-day war? This whole aspect of Iran is going to become nuclear. did not start with Israel. Israel's been saying this for a while. Yeah, of late, it started with the Saudis. So there is some merit to this entire speculation. That's what I'm saying.
I'll be honest with you. I don't think Iran was anywhere close to making a nuclear bomb. They were maybe years away. According to America's own intelligence, they were years away from making a proper actual nuclear bomb, and more importantly, being able to find a platform to deliver that nuclear bomb. Why did this war happen? This war happened because first Netanyahu, Bibi Netanyahu, and then subsequently he managed to convince Donald Trump that they have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to take out a man who has been chanting death to America and death to Israel for the last 40 years.
Okay.
Trump wanted to do this for his legacy. Bibi wanted to do this for his legacy, and they have it now. Now the question is, how does the war wind down? There's only one or two ways in which the war winds down. One is either Iran gets an off-ramp, they get a high-value American target, they either hit the aircraft carrier, I don't know how they'll do that, or they hit a commander who's overseeing the operations, whatever it is. They need a high-value target to take down and then show to their people that Khamenei's death has been avenged. Or the second way in which this can be done is if the Trump administration finds a candidate who is pliable enough, who says, okay, I'm going to put an end to this, like the Delcy Rodriguez of Iran.
Right.
What did they do in Venezuela? Again, it's apples and oranges, but at the end of the day, they shifted one guy out. They removed one guy, found the second in command and said, you take charge and we've got a deal. What did Trump do with the Houthis? People tend to forget this. He started this whole bombing campaign of the Houthis right after he came to office.
Yeah.
He did that for about a month, and then he realized he's not going to be able to stop the Houthis, or at least decapitate them in a way that they stop attacking ships on the Red Sea. What did he do? He cut a deal with the Houthis. A man who can cut a deal with the Houthis surely can cut a deal with the Iranians.
But
That's what Trump will do.
Somewhere they don't seem to be wanting to cut a deal now. Now the Iranians don't want to cut a deal. Rahul, why do you think Trump has shifted the goalpost?
I'll tell you why the Iranians they could be opportunistic.
Yeah.
And make the pretense of wanting to come to the table to give themselves some breathing room. But fundamentally, they won't compromise with the US because this is not a legitimate regime. They need an enemy to stay relevant, just like Trump needs an enemy to keep away from. This is not about legacy. This just, that's a peripheral conversation. This is about the economic ruin. This is about the Epstein files. This is about several other things, including an election that is looming on the horizon. If Trump even is thinking, I don't know, if he's thinking of another term, you never know with him, he needs at least something to go back to his party to say, look, here, I'm still sellable. On the other side, you have Bibi Netanyahu, who's facing elections in another 6-8 months or 6 months.
Yeah, and he's been quite under the pump
my dear friend,
domestic
not
politics.
under the pump.
Not only
his approval ratings are by his socks.
And not only that, but he's also going to be prosecuted because he was supposed not to get re-elected or get involved in the politics.
Whose shoulders does he stand on? The Zionists. A hard right. Are those going to compromise with Israel? No. See, you've got to understand that over the last 2.5, 3 years, Israel has found one excuse after the other to prolong that war that began on October 7th. So if it's not going into Gaza, then it's going down some other rabbit hole like the Hezbollah in Lebanon and this, that, the other. Then it was Iran, then back again. So they've just wanted to extend this. They've created an enemy. This is wag the dog. This is classic wag the dog.
Yeah, but this is also very, very expensive for a country like Israel. War is not cheap. Now,
for Israel, not so much because they get covered by US taxpayers.
Exactly, that's the thing.
It is more expensive for US taxpayers than for Israel, actually. So, especially considering that the mass of ammunition is of US production, because Israel has no heavy metal industry.
Tom, there is a lack of enthusiasm in Trump's base for this war. The MAGA base does not like long wars. Trump came to power saying that he's not going to get entangled in long wars. So if anyone is going to sort of pull out of this war or put an end to this war, it is Donald Trump. He
absolutely.
To extend this.
In fact, I'm absolutely in agreement with you.
The Nobel Prize has gone out of the window now.
No, he doesn't care for the Nobel Prize because I don't think he's going to get it. The other question is China. What's happening right now, viewers, we are looking at a blooming energy crisis. Every nation buys oil and keeps stock for at least about 30 to 60 days. Even Bharat would have got its barrels in place for at least 30 to 60 days. But then if this war continues, the energy crisis looms. Europe is already facing a price up on its LNG because Qatar has stopped production. What's China's game here? Because a lot of the oil, if the Strait of Hormuz closes, they are going to make sure that even Chinese ships don't go there because the US or the Israeli will come and bomb it, or somebody else will bomb a Chinese tanker and say, listen, nothing closed. If ours doesn't go, theirs won't go either.
Especially Israelis.
Yeah,
yes,
Israelis will do that. That's going to happen. China has already cut down, the refiner has already cut down production. What's China's game here? Because it's backing Iran. And is it going to help Iran militarily? Is it going to ensure this war prolongs, or it's also in its interest that it tries to figure out an off-ramp for Iran?
It's a good question. I would say that they are certainly going to continue doing like if they are doing nothing and just monitoring while doing their usual plausible deniability, which is, for example, supplying surface-to-air missiles to Iran via Afghanistan down to Zahedan or to Mashhad or to whatever the cities are in eastern Iran.
Right.
By flights of nocturnal flights of their transport aircraft. This is quickly done, and nobody can say anything against this. Beyond that, they are going to wait for their moment, because we should not forget one thing. This is almost unknown in the public, that Israel and China are at war. At least their intelligence services are at war already for 20, 30 years. They are killing each other, especially in Africa, bombing each other, assassinating each other, and so on and so on. And the Chinese, at some point in time, they went so far that they have positioned the camera, captured a Mossad operative, and then assassinated him in front of camera and sent the video to the Israeli embassy.
Wow, this is something which is not relevant or not known to this part of the world as much, that there's so much happening in Africa. So the Africa dimension comes into play, and that Israel, so that's what Tom Cooper is saying, China and Israel have been at war, their intelligence agencies.
So they are going to sit and wait patiently until a certain point, and then when it hurts too much, then they are going to act. In what fashion, that's something I cannot
All right,
predict.
we've got limited time, 3 minutes, so let me start with you and then we'll circle back to Rahul and Zaka and then end here. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's silence has seen a lot of domestic politics. He's not said much about, he's not commented about the Khamenei killing. He has called up various heads of state, but nothing about the war from him, from his handle. You think that's a right position? Because many are questioning the silence. The opposition is questioning his silence.
Well, look, I don't know anything at all about Indian politics. I can say only following. He has to care about the country of 1.4 billion. And he's somebody who thinks about developing this country for the next 20 years in advance. In this regards, he's already not just one, but several magnitudes better than any other politicians I know around.
Okay.
So now to get dragged into this idiocy, I wouldn't be keen to be in his position and get dragged into this. I would.
So that's your assessment,
also
that
fall silent and keep quiet.
Better to stay silent and keep quiet. Rahul?
Yeah, I think, look, fundamentally, Iran, is it really a great friend? I mean, if you were just forced to flip a coin and choose a side, I still go with the Israelis a little bit. At least they've helped us when, we've been down and out in conflicts too. The Iranians, I'm sorry, they've put the Muslim world first on many occasions.
Yes.
So, yes, there is one complication though. There's one wrinkle, and there is a port, the Chabahar port, in which we had made huge investments. The idea was to try and thwart the Gwadar China-Pakistan axis.
Yeah.
And that's my worry. And I think the calculation perhaps in New Delhi is this. It's better to be on the winning side. So when things are divvied up by the new regime, or by a regime that might be perhaps more conducive to working with the West and so on and so forth, we can use our good offices to get back into Chabahar, like we did in Afghanistan, for example, when there was a transition. We got those contracts to build and so on and so forth. And of course, the Americans then walked out, and we were worried that all those contracts would go out of the window. Then we had to do business with the Taliban. We sort of held our nose and we did business. I think the Indians are sort of seeing this perhaps as another way of getting back into the equation by just keeping out of it and letting somebody else come in and not upsetting
interestingly,
equations.
there is a thought process which says that was the Ayatollah really the religious head of the Shia? Because the descendant of Ali is in Najaf.
And just one little point.
Najaf.
One little point.
Yeah.
We also have a huge trade equation
Correct.
with the GCC countries, which we can't sort of jeopardize.
Yeah, and we've got
also
friends
a
in the
big
Gulf
Muslim
areas. We've got
population.
friendship with everybody. Yeah,
My
quickly,
view
yeah.
is that India's already taken its side. It was evident even before this war began. India's on the side of the US and the Israelis. We can't publicly say it because there are domestic concerns
Makes sense.
and so on and so forth. But I think India is very clear. I don't think it's a coincidence that the Prime Minister was in Israel 48 hours before this campaign began. I think that was...
But there's no truth to all this doing the rounds that it's the Prime Minister who went and gave Ayatollah's coordinates to the Israelis. Sorry.
Who said that?
No, it's all doing the rounds on
really?
social media.
Wow.
Okay. There is a big press conference going on, so as we call this a wrap, let's quickly go across to that.